Hello, everybody. Welcome. Can everyone else hear that doorbell every time someone enters? It's the worst thing.
Yes, I'm loving it.
Haunts my 2020 dreams.
I think I just got rid of it.
Excellent.
Thanks, Anna.
We'll give everyone just a few minutes to join us, and then we'll get started. Something that we say a lot here, we invite all of you to turn your cameras on. You do not have to, obviously, if you do not want to, but if you would like to, feel like we're all participating in a town hall type thing, please do so, again, if you feel like it. For those of you just joining us, we're giving everyone just a few more minutes to hop in before we get started. I was muted. As folks pour in, we will be using the chat for questions. Specifically, though, if you would like to raise a hand, I think or if you would raise a hand, that'd be the best way for us to get to each and every one of your questions. If you have questions specifically about admissions or the admissions process, throw those in the chat for sure. We have our admissions team here, or members of our admissions team who are going to be facilitating, kind of answering those questions as they come. However, if you have questions for placements, myself and Anna, who I'll introduce in a minute, then just raise a hand, and when we get to the Q&A portion of this, and we will go ahead and address them directly. So maybe as we're waiting for a few more folks to trickle in, just kind of maybe start thinking about some questions you might have. We'll run through a quick introductory presentation just to talk about our team and what we do, and then open up the floor for anyone who would like to have their questions answered. What do y'all say, 2 more minutes, maybe? Okay. Okay, I think it's safe to get started. This is being recorded, so for anyone who joins us late, we'll figure out a good way to share out this recording. But hello, everybody. My name is Mark Rodriguez. I am the manager of our technical coaches on the placements team, and we're going to get to some introductions here in just a second. Before we get started, just a reminder for those who are just joining us, if you have any questions, please raise a hand if you have questions for the placements team, myself, Anna. If you have questions about admissions or our admissions process in general, we have members of the admissions team here who will be in the chat and can answer your questions directly there. Again, we'll also be monitoring the chat and they will shout us out if there is any questions that Anna and I can answer. To get started, what we'll do is we're going to jump directly into a quick presentation. We'll do some introductions, and then we'll explain kind of what our team does, and then work our way through to Q&A after that. Sound good? Again, you are all welcome to turn your cameras on if you'd like to participate a little more. If not, that's okay, but we'll get started. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I will, of course, ask the famous question of, can everyone see my screen? Can everyone see the presentation? I assume you all can. Excellent. Welcome to this session. This is Career Coach Q&A. The career portion of the App Academy experience is very important to us. It's very important to you all as well as you make a decision about which boot camp to attend. And so we want to talk a little bit about that today. So we'll dive right in with just who the placements team are. We have some team leads and career coaches, but first I'm going to introduce Anna Paschall, our Senior Manager of Placements, to tell us a little bit about herself. Anna?
Yes, thank you, Mark. Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday evening. As Mark mentioned, my name is Anna. I am the Senior Manager of the Placements team, which means I have the privilege of working with all of our coaches across New York, San Francisco, and the online program. I have been with App Academy almost exactly 3 years. It'll be 3 years next week. I first entered into the App Academy ecosystem as a student. So I was part of the New York February cohort 3 years ago, went through the experience that all of you are considering at this point. Prior to App Academy, I was a technical recruiter for a year. And so that's how I was really exposed to the world of software engineering and what opportunities could be afforded to folks who learned how to code. So for me in that role, I became curious about what it looked like to be a coder, to be a software engineer, started teaching myself, dabbling in some of the free options that are out there online. Eventually did my research, decided to take the plunge and come to App Academy as a student. I first started working for App Academy as a technical coach. So we'll talk about, I'm sure, the difference between our behavioral coaches and our technical coaches. I had the privilege of joining the New York team as a technical coach first. And as we've grown our team over the course of the last 3 years, have been able to take some leadership responsibilities, and I am now in the role that I am currently. So excited to talk more about what the job search, the career portion of this journey looks like. Also happy to talk about my experience as a student. Mark will give his full intro, I'm sure, but also has the experience of coming into the program as a student first. So we're very sort of familiar with the decision that you are all considering and happy to talk about that as well. So I will turn it back to you, Mark. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Anna, our fearless leader. As I mentioned earlier, I'm Mark Rodriguez. I'm the technical team manager, so I manage all of our technical career coaches. We are going to talk about the difference between our behavioral and our technical coaches in just a moment. Just like Anna, I'm also a graduate of App Academy. In fact, Anna and I were in the same New York cohort back in the day when it was a 12-week-long program and we had to code uphill both ways with a older version of JavaScript. Prior to that, I am a graduate of the University of Texas at Austin, where I studied philosophy and dabbled in a ton of things. Columbia University brought me to New York, where I was a clinical research project manager. How bridge the gap between philosophy and that, I'll leave that up to you to decide how that worked out. But I did that successfully for many years and learned on my way kind of how to code. Decided that I really wanted to dive headfirst as I tried to a little bit of self-taught. I'm sure some of you may have explored learning how to code via kind of online free programs, maybe even App Academy Open, our own free program yourselves. Realized that I needed kind of the rigor of a kind of an official bootcamp experience in order to actually accelerate my career in this direction, if that's something that I chose. Did a ton of research, due diligence, the whole 9 yards, as Anna mentioned too, kind of, have we been in your positions before? I interviewed after graduating with a couple of companies, couple that were great, couple that weren't exactly the right fit at the end of the day, but at the same time was offered a position here at App Academy and took it. I was a technical career coach just like Anna, but in San Francisco, so I had to make that move. About 6 months later, I moved back to New York. This is where I want to be, obviously. This is my home. And I became the manager of the coaching team online, and then have since transitioned to take on all of the technical coaches underneath the umbrella of Anna's kind of leadership here. As you can see, we also have another team lead, Michael LaMarche, who isn't with us today. Michael is our behavioral team manager, leader of our behavioral coaches, and down below you see the list of all of our technical and behavioral coaches who draw from a wide breadth of experience, as our technical coaches are all software engineers. In fact, have all also gone through App Academy, but have had previous experience as either technical leads or technical, some sort of technical history, work history, or have had some management experience and worked with people and have a lot of experience, kind of communicating what they've learned at App Academy to other folks. Our behavioral career coaches are all previously either career coaches themselves, recruiters, or working in recruiting, in higher education, in education in general. We've had a lot of folks, and we draw from a lot of different experiences and backgrounds for our behavioral coaching. So together, we will guide you all through the job search process. So first, I just want to start with kind of what employers are looking for and why we incorporate a job search portion to this App Academy kind of bootcamp experience, right? First of all, employers are looking for collaboration and teamwork. They're looking for experienced pair programmers, something you all will get plenty of experience with if you come to App Academy. People who work well in a group setting, exchange ideas and debate with peers, answer each other's questions and debug via documentation. Can you do research on your own? Even though this is a educational experience where you will have seasoned instructors who will guide you through learning our material, part of this job is really still self-motivating. So there needs to be a little bit of that in you in order to be successful in this field. So we're going to guide you through, working in group settings, exchanging ideas, but really how to take the tools that we're giving you and run with them. The ability to pick up new material quickly in a fast-paced environment with little senior support. Again, as you learn how to code, you're going to find that it is going to be important for you to be able to expand on the technologies that you've learned and grow at your own pace, but in your own way as well. So this is something that you're going to get, as many graduates of the program will tell you, attending App Academy is kind of like drinking from a fire hose as far as knowledge goes. It's a lot all at once, but this is exactly what employers want, right? Understanding what it means to structure and store data in a database, create an API to update and remove that data, and then render that data to a client via some sort of JavaScript, HTML, CSS thing, right? Many of these terms may not mean anything to you now, but by the time you graduate App Academy, you will understand how to do all of these things regardless of stack. I will say that we use, depending on the program that you decide to join, Ruby on Rails, Node, and Express, as well as Flask on our backend with Python. And on the front end, we use React on top of HTML and CSS fundamentals to render data. I say regardless of stack because at App Academy, we do not produce React developers. We do not produce Flask developers or Node developers or Rails developers. That's largely irrelevant. What's the most important thing is that you are not only familiar with the modern tools used to build web applications, but more importantly, the underlying philosophy, design philosophy, implementation philosophy that underpins these applications. So while we use the tools that we chose because we think that those are the best tools for new learners, but also those are the tools that are used widely in the workforce, just because you learned these tools does not mean you necessarily will use them in your day-to-day jobs, and that's a good thing. It means that you will understand how to take what you've learned and implement it into any stack at any company, regardless of programming language, framework chosen, or library chosen. So we encourage you all to not concern yourselves too much with making a choice based on what programming language you'll learn, and more about will you get all the tools necessary to succeed on the job. Finally, a reason for being, right? Why do you want to be a developer? Why are you interested in this field specifically? Why do you care, right? And what will you as an individual bring to your team? And what you learn at App Academy will be just as important as what you're bringing from your previous careers, from your previous life experience. Maybe you've had a job before, maybe you haven't, maybe you went to college, maybe you didn't. It doesn't matter. We're going to be drawing on all those previous experiences, working with our technical and behavioral coaches to give you answers or help you provide answers to these questions while still owning your story and owning the fact that you are a career changer. So in order to achieve all of these goals, you will have dedicated support, not only throughout the instructional phase of our curriculum, but afterwards. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So you have your technical coaches. They will review your project features, the projects that you build while you're at App Academy. They will conduct mock on-sites. These are long technical interviews that have a lot of moving parts. So we'll teach you how to succeed in those interviews. And they host technical workshops, ongoing continuing education workshops in data structures and algorithms, computer science fundamentals, and technical interviewing skills, along with many, many other things. Our behavioral coaching team is analogous to our tech coaching team here. They will review your non-technical materials, cover letter, resume, online presence, portfolio sites, all of those things. It is very important that all of these things are very solid before you start applying. That's why we incorporate this not only into the job search process, but our curriculum itself, where you will build these materials from scratch, because it is pretty irrelevant how good of a programmer you are if you don't have a good resume. No one will ever find out, right? It doesn't matter how well-versed you are in data structures and algorithms or computer science fundamentals. If you don't have a good way of communicating that knowledge via a phone screen or answering good behavioral questions or producing a good resume or cover letter, you'll never be interviewed in the first place. So we make sure that you have those tools as well. And we think that they are equally important to the technical skills that you're going to learn. And we'll talk about why in just a minute. They will conduct mock non-technical interviews, again, to hone these skills. And they host their own workshops, creative outreach, networking, behavioral interviewing. Surveys of the industry have revealed that probably about 60%, although it is difficult to gauge, but probably about 60% of all available roles are never posted on any public job board. Internal hiring, internal networks are usually how roles are filled in this industry. So we're going to help you get into those networks and be referred by people who work at great companies, including our own alumni and our own partners, which are very important. They also provide negotiation guidance. This is a huge thing. If you're like me, coming from a background where maybe you were taught to just be grateful you have a job at all and thank your employer for being nice enough, kind enough to hire you, well, you're now going to be very valuable, and we're going to make sure that you are compensated adequately for the value you will provide for each company. So we will be negotiating as well. We finally have software engineering assistants. These are more apprentices. These are people just like you who have graduated the program. They are currently actively looking for jobs, but their skills as well as their kind of drive to teach as well have brought them into our folds to be able to conduct mock technical interviews and also provide general debugging and technical support at a much lower level. If you are stuck on a bug or if you have a quick question, they're around daily to help you as well. So landing the offer, you have all of this support. What are we going to do in order to boost your candidacy for a role? So the instructional portion of App Academy is about giving you the tools necessary to succeed on the job. The job search itself, that portion of the curriculum, that portion of the post-curriculum life here at App Academy is about giving you the tools necessary to succeed in the interview. These are slightly different but related tools or related skills. You can imagine that going through the boot camp or going through the instructional phase of our boot camp is going to be about kind of learning what the day-to-day is going to be like and being able to execute on tickets or on sprints or things that you're assigned as a software engineer. The interview is kind of like a standardized test. While the underlying concepts you'll use every day, data structures and algorithms, are key to what we do every day, it is a very different environment where you're going through multiple rounds of technical interviews, being given very specific puzzles and problems that you have to solve using the programming language of your choice, whatever that might be. And so studying for those things is going to be a little bit different. And so the job search is going to give you the time and give you this expertise and access to expertise to prepare yourself for those interviews. You're going to continue building projects, reviewing computer science fundamentals, practicing data structures and algorithms, networking, attending conferences and meetups, and presenting yourself as an engineer for the first time during this job search phase. You'll follow our job search guidelines and application requirements, attend weekly stand-ups, continuing education workshops, and events hosted by our partner companies after graduation as well. So you'll have access this entire time to a team of experts to support and guide you towards that end goal, of course, of getting hired. That's why you came here in the first place, and we're going to help make sure that that happens. The big takeaway here is that the bootcamp experience at App Academy ends when you sign that offer letter. And so we are going to follow you up until that point, from graduation, our team from graduation to that offer letter and everything in between, we will provide you with the support for all of that. That's kind of the end of this presentation. It's very brief, but I've covered kind of what our team does and why we include this as part of the bootcamp experience at App Academy. But I do want to open up the floor for questions. Again, if you have questions about our admissions process specifically, go on ahead and put those in the chat. If not, raise a hand, talk to us. We're very excited to be here, and we want to make sure that all of your questions are answered. Let's see, Justin. Oh,
Thank you.
I have to, there you go. I have to unmute you, Justin. So everyone, yeah, I have to. One of us has to unmute you. I forgot about that, so we'll make sure that we do that. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. So when it comes down to it, what just kind of visualizing my week to week, what will our communications be like? Like, will I be meeting with coaches, technical, behavioral, all that good stuff on a regular basis throughout the program? Or is it more like each week is focused? Because I understand it's basically like content. Then on a Monday, you have an exam. You have to pass that exam, and then you move forward with the content. So how should I visualize that in the big picture, really?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, so during the actual, we call it kind of the instructional phase. This is the 16 weeks, 24 weeks, whatever program you actually end up signing up for. That's the crux of the instructional phase, and our coaches are going to come in the final stages of that. So during the main instructional phase of the curriculum, you really have a lot to do in order to learn all of the material, understand the stack that we're teaching you or stacks that we're teaching you, the programming languages, the fundamentals there. Towards the end, we will have a transitionary phase where we're going to start bringing in our career coaches and we take over lectures. And then we give lectures on not only behavioral and technical interviewing, but resume building, networking, negotiations. We have mock technical interviews, data structures and algorithms, pair boarding, all of that stuff will happen in the final few weeks of the program. So if you're online, we call that Mod 7, it's the final 4. And Career Quest, which is the last 2 weeks. And in our campus hybrid, so New York, San Francisco program, Anna, correct me, it's 2 weeks still, the final 2 weeks of the program. So after that is graduation, and then that's when the real fun as far as job search starts. So you have all of the skills, you've built the projects, then it's time to start really diving in and studying for the job or the interview process. When that happens, you'll be meeting with your coach on a regular basis, depending on what your individual needs are. Some people don't need to see their coach every week. They don't want to. So they'll meet either in a group or individually, maybe every other week, or individually once a month, but twice a week as a group, depending on what you individually need. But then we have about 30 hours of workshops that are available every single week where you can pop in and maybe you have a phone screen next Monday, right? And we have a behavioral prep workshop on Tuesday and Thursday. So today's Tuesday, maybe we've missed that, but you're going to want to jump in on Thursday and meet with a behavioral coach, any behavioral coach, or the one who's hosting that workshop at that time. Our individual coaches have their own specialties. So one of our coaches, Allie, for instance, is really great. She's a former actress and also a teacher. So she's great with personality and presence and bringing that extra X factor to those interviews. So she would be somebody that you would want to jump into a workshop with the week before that kind of an interview. Same with technical interviews. We have pair boarding time and we have dedicated workshops for technical interviews. And then you can just hop into those as necessary to prepare as well. So lots of support. Just because you have one coach assigned to you, which you will, doesn't mean that you can't draw from the breadth of expertise that we have on a much more targeted focus basis. Anna, do you have anything to add to that?
The only thing that I would add is part of that 30-hour chunk that Mark mentioned is also office hours. So that's time where you can drop in and meet with any coach. So we have the workshops that Mark referenced, but then the office hours themselves are also incredibly beneficial, and it provides tons and tons of access to a lot of different levels of expertise, as Mark mentioned. So yeah, there's no shortage of support, and it really is catered as much as we can to the individual and what you will need in your own individual job searches. This is not a one-size-fits-all process. Everyone's background is different, everyone's experience is different, and we do our best to make sure we have resources that are going to be appropriate on an individualized basis.
Right. And to follow up with Justin in the chat before we move on to Jake, yes, so workshops are group-based, but even meetings with coaches can be group-based. For instance, the vast majority of the people under my purview prefer to meet with me kind of in a group setting, just to kind of give me a quick update every other week. So that's what we do. And then they can just Slack me if they say, hey, Mark, I have an interview tomorrow and there isn't really a good office hour that fits. Can we just meet for maybe 15 minutes today? I just want to run by some things with you. And if I have time in my calendar, which generally I can find the time for, then I'll be like, yeah, absolutely. Let me throw it on my calendar now. Let's chat. If for some reason I'm booked up for the day, then I'll say I can't. But you know what? I have somebody, one of our coaches, Corey, Anna, somebody who will be able to jump in and work with you in a pinch. Same for, hey, I just got an offer, right? That's not something you're going to want to wait into a group meeting to bring up. You're going to want to ping your coach, jump into a meeting, talk about how to negotiate. So yeah, we're available. We're very available is what I'm saying here. Yeah. Let's see, Jake.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, you sound all right.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was just wondering if you could go into a little more detail. I joined a little late, so if I missed this, I apologize. But I was wondering if you could go into a little more detail on the corporate relationships, and maybe like what percentage of into roles within those organizations, and maybe how the interview process looks with them, or if it's any different, given that they are aware that we're coming out of a boot camp. So I think just generally trying to understand that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take the first half of that and then turn it over to Anna for the data. But as far as the process goes, so our there's kind of two branches to our partnerships. One is our partnerships team doing cold outreach to companies that have hired App Academy grads historically and saying, hey, look, what are your needs? We can connect you with good people. That is probably the smaller percentage of it. Most of the time, though, these are companies that are coming directly to us through our partnerships team saying, hey, look, we hired 2 App Academy grads 6 months ago. We're hiring again. They're great. We want to hire more. Or we'll get referrals directly from alumni who work at these companies and say, hey, look, I know my team is hiring right now. Can I connect you, partnerships team? Can I connect you with our hiring manager because they're looking for good people? And I've already said that, App Academy is a great pool. So we have tons of companies. We have some bigger names. Of course, we have an ongoing partnership with companies like Google and Bloomberg and Facebook. And, if you think of the big company, we partner with them. But then the process itself is going to be more like they reach out to us and say, hey, look, okay, we need to fill this many roles by this deadline. We will open up that application in the form of a kind of a form that you just fill out expressing your interest, and then we'll send your resume to them. They'll vet the list and then reach out to you for an interview on their terms. Generally, though, you are prioritized, or at the very least, guaranteed to have your resume reviewed, at least reviewed, if not brought into an interview. For instance, what was it, last year? It was just before COVID, so I guess now it's 2 years ago. Facebook did a really big hiring push with us. They were going to hire, I think, 10 or 15 roles. They opened up the application. They had 1,000 applicants, but they looked at App Academy grads first. And I think they ended up hiring several, I don't remember, 5, something like that. It was a good number of people from our recently graduated cohorts. Bloomberg does the same thing. Google does the same thing. They just have an ongoing list of you and they will reach out and then interview you. And after that partnership, after that connection is made, it's kind of up to the company how they want to proceed with those interviews. But generally, you are skipping the hard part, which is getting your foot in the door in the first place, getting that initial call, getting your application read. That's the part that we're skipping. Anna, anything to add as far as that or percentages?
Yeah, I actually just did some quick math because we just finalized our Q1 data. So last quarter, so that's January through March, 30.5% of all the placements that came through were directly from our partnership companies. So that is not an insignificant number by any stretch. So that is definitely a big, big part of what the App Academy sort of postgraduate team has to offer. We have 5 partnerships managers at this point who are tasked solely with going out, establishing those partnerships, both with people who have never heard of boot camps or App Academy, but also with our alumni. We have a very, very strong alumni base that does a really great job of advocating for our graduates and making sure that we're presenting our folks with really great opportunities. So 30% is where we've been hovering. I believe Q4 last year was closer to 35, but we had a big push with Bloomberg toward the end of the year. So that was fantastic for our graduates, but that's what we're looking at as far as the data goes.
And I will say just an important caveat that it is, even though we do have these partnerships, this is not a here, have a job, right? It is hard work. You have to prepare for these interviews. You have to be a good, solid candidate. You're already coming into a company that has hired App Academy grads before. They know the good work that you can do, but it is still very important that you dedicate yourself to preparing for that job, working with coaches. It still is not easy. It is not a it's not a gift by any means. It just makes the process a little bit easier and makes sure that you get seen. So, it is important, and it is also not the end all be all. You will still have to apply for jobs on your own. We will help you do that. Of course, we'll guide you towards, how to exactly submit the right types of applications and networking in order to, get your foot in the door as well. Again, 30% of partnerships, but the rest are individuals applying, going through the process, going through the motions, and landing that job. So just important caveat. I'm going to keep this grounded as well. So Jake, your hand is still up. I can unmute you. Did you have a follow-up to that before I call on Anthony? I guess I can't unmute you. So if you have another question there in the chat, let's see, Anthony, and then but real quick.
I'm all good.
Oh, you're good. Awesome, Jake. Real quick, the average salary for students who completed the program, Anna again has just processed that data. So what do we got?
Yep. So this is the latest and greatest data for all graduates from 2019 to current. So for New York, currently the average is 87K. However, we have some cohorts recently that are averaging over 100. So that's awesome. Shows us we're having strong market trends at this point. SF is 96, but again, we have a few cohorts recently who are averaging like 111, 115. Depends on the cohort, depends on the timing, depends on a lot of things, but just about 100 there. And then it is 78K for online, again, with some really strong recent cohorts. So definitely in line with what we've been seeing historically. Excited to have that trend continue for us across the board. And some very strong, encouraging cohorts recently graduating is also fantastic.
Yeah, also important to note that does cover all of COVID, which is pretty incredible. And also with our online program, these are people who are getting hired across the country. And as many of you know, I don't know where everyone's located, but I know certainly in many parts of the country, 70K is well and above the average salary in in a city. So if you're getting hired in one of the smaller markets, that amounts for that kind of a lower salary figure against the 110K San Francisco, but that means very different things across the country. Anthony. Oh, I have to unmute you. I'm sorry, Anthony. Anthony, sorry about that. There we go.
Hi. Hello. Yeah, I just had hey, Mark. Yeah. So I was wondering, so I'm in accounting. So I did like accounting in college. So I was wondering about how many individuals you receive into your program that like transition, to a coding career, and I was kind of eyeing like data science or data analysis because that's like more associated with kind of the accounting field and the vast streams of data that go through companies. So I was thinking that might be a good fit for me. I was just wondering if coaches would help us decide what is the best route to pursue, because there's so many different routes.
Yeah. So our graduates are going to become web developers, right? For the most part, right? Like the vast majority will go into web development of some kind, because that is the type of bootcamp that we are. We're not a data science bootcamp. We're not a game development bootcamp, right? We're a web development, full stack web development bootcamp. And that means that there are, as to your point, a lot of directions that one can go within that realm. But for your first job, the sub industry that you end up in isn't going to matter as much as getting the experience in as just being a software engineer. So yes, your coaches will take help you with your previous experience, previous work, getting that into the right place, right? You're you said coming from accounting, there are tons of tech companies or even accounting firms, consulting firms, other companies that, could use that expertise or that previous experience in what you do now, or as in your future engineering career. So they could be looking for things like that. But an important thing to note is that it really doesn't matter where you came from. We are going to own that story, right? We're going to work those niches as well. But we've seen people from all backgrounds, people with college degrees, without college degrees, from fry cooks to medical aides to just everything in between, right? PhDs, even we've had someone with a PhD come through in a totally different topic, in the humanities, and land a job in a field they didn't expect. So yes, we will help you leverage your future, or your past into your future career. But really, there's so many opportunities available, and it's going to be very important that you just take the one that is going to have a solid salary that's going to be able to cover your needs, but also going to give you that experience that's necessary. Because after that first year or two, you can jump off and join any sub-industry that you want within the engineering field.
I see. Okay, but to start off, it's like a web. You prime, your candidates first in the web development field.
Web development. Yep, absolutely. Because you'll be building full stack web applications, right? Okay. But that does not mean that you can't, kind of grow into a specific area. But full stack web developer, that's what you'll be.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. Let's see. Looking through, Sophia says, typically what months have higher salaries for graduates? That's not a trend that we've seen specifically. There are definitely months that have more hiring or higher hiring. Q1 of the year, lots of people are hiring during Q1. The summer kind of slows down a little bit, but it isn't so much like the highest salary as people who are hired in September. I mean, maybe there's some data there, but it wouldn't be good data. So no, I would say no, there isn't really any trends there. What is your salary is going to directly reflect the amount of work that you put in and your skill. So if you're studying data structures and algorithms, you're studying the stuff that you learned while you were in the cohort, in the instructional phase of the curriculum, then you'll be more competitive because you'll get more offers, and then you'll be able to leverage those offers against each other. That is really what's going to account for the higher salary. Anna, I saw you unmuted. Did you have something else to add?
Yeah, I think I meant that more so not related to months specifically, but also market, right? So lately there's been a really strong demand for developers and not as much of a supply. And so therefore, your value therefore increases. So to Mark's point, yeah, it's not like there's a magical month. That would be fantastic. We would have massive cohorts and all sorts of success during those months, but it is definitely more related to the job market and kind of what we're seeing as far as trends there. But yeah, I ditto everything Mark said about Q1 being really strong with budgets renewing, summer slowing a little. The end of Q4 is usually a little slow around the holiday weeks, but everything in between is pretty strong. Yeah, great question, Sophia. Thanks for clarifying that.
Absolutely. Hans is next in the chat. Hans, I'm going to find you and unmute you because I don't quite understand, maybe one of our admissions people do, but the difference between a regular bootcamp score and an App Academy open score. Oh, you can unmute yourselves now, I guess. Magic. Go for it, Hans.
Hello. Can you hear me? Hear my voice?
Yes.
Yeah. I was attending the App Academy Open School online for like 2 and 3 weeks, and I just curious that what's the difference between the regular online bootcamp or regular campus bootcamp? Yeah, and I want to know that if there is a I would search for the open school that had the can pay the money like monthly and get the help for like technique supporting. And I want to know is that still different between the online bootcamp and the open school bootcamp? Yeah.
I see what you mean. I think I'm going to try to answer this, or Anna, unless you had. Well, anyway, I think I know what you're talking about here. So our App Academy Open is free for anyone who would like to sign up for App Academy Open. It is our entire in-person curriculum. So the curriculum is exactly the same. The huge difference is obviously you don't have any of the proctoring, you don't have any of the TA support, and you're not bound to a rigorous schedule, right? As I mentioned previously, I needed that. I tried to learn on my own, and I probably could have. I mean, that's one thing that people who go through pretty much any boot camp towards the end are going to be like, I probably could have done that on my own. It's like, baby, that's absolutely fair. A lot of folks do successfully do this on their own. In fact, that's why we released our program, App Academy Open, free of charge for anybody who wants to have it, because we believe in that program. So if you would like to go through Open by yourself, we have had success. People have had gotten jobs, great jobs, based on going through and learning based on our curriculum. That's completely free of charge. What you're paying for is everything that we talked about today, earlier today, the entire coaching support, all of that. That's a huge part. It's actually why I signed up for App Academy, that and the network and the rigor. So 3 things. But I needed that kind of dedicated time, that dedicated support. It was very hard. I will say that, but worth it. So if you would like to go through that process, or if you would like to pay to get the mentoring, I know we do have that, or I've had that in the past, I think we still do. You can, kind of get some individual mentoring, but not do the whole program. That's perfectly fine. It's completely up to you and what your, kind of who you are as an individual. Are you self-motivated enough in order to do it? I certainly was not. I'm sure that there are plenty of people who are. But additionally, the outcomes that we're talking about, the statistics that we can share with you all, do not include App Academy Open or our free track, because it's very difficult to judge how much effort is put into what the reward would be, right? We can't really correlate that. So that's the major difference is if you sign up for the bootcamp, it becomes your life for that period of time.
Okay, thank you. I will ask just because in some condition that I have to take care of my little baby for like 7 to 8 months, and I also want to learn a programming course, and that's why I have no enough confidence to join a campus or online regular school, because I have to take care of the baby. So yeah, so I will ask. Yeah,
completely understood. And you know what? I would say try App Academy Open.
We also have a part-time program that would be potentially really great as well. So I would encourage you to check that out too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anna, do you want to take JL's question here?
Sure. All right. So we have in regards to tuition costs, so understanding as how much the limit is 31,000, if I remember correctly. Yep. That's for the ISA, for the online program. If you can't find a job in software development, let's say, is the charge still the same? For example, if you completed the program, but you get a job as an operations manager for a logistics company. So yes, so the $31,000 tuition, obviously these outcomes are all based on folks who are receiving jobs in the field, and that is where the absolute vast majority of our graduates will land. If, however, you get to the end of the program and you decide this isn't the route for you, you would still owe that tuition, and you would pay it back based on whatever role you received that was over your salary threshold. So that is something that your coach will work with you on. We maintain a very open line of communication with folks who go that route. It is a very, very small percentage of people, I will say though, who will get to the end and realize it's not for them. However, it would happen and the tuition would still be owed. But again, our role here is to help you get a job that you are going to thrive in. And for most people, that's going to be software development related, but that is how the documents are written. That's my understanding, at least. Admissions, I'm not sure if you'd all like to elaborate on that, but that's what we've been operating under as coaches.
Right. And I mean, it's also important to note as well that the statistics that we share, like our placement statistics, the number of people who actually get jobs from each cohort, are only those who are getting jobs within the field. Again, there's lots of reasons why somebody might choose not to. But if you have gone through the program, you've received the education and is of your own volition that hey, I actually don't want to do this. Of course, it makes sense that you would still owe tuition. That is very different than you not being able to find a job in the field, right? That means that we did not uphold our end of the bargain. As long as you were doing what you needed to do to find a job, you went through the program successfully and graduated. If you don't find a job, that's a totally different story. But if you decide that you want to do something different, it does make sense that tuition would still be owed. I'm not, the market for philosophers was not great when I graduated with my philosophy degree. I still had to pay for my philosophy degree. So, yeah.
Well, and Will, to your question, are those documents available publicly? So before you were to sign anything, you would receive an enrollment agreement and a tuition forgiveness agreement, and all of that's included in there. So yeah, you would absolutely get that before you were committed and locked into anything.
Yeah, there is no full discount if you pay in full. Yeah. Or there is a discount. I'm sorry, there's no refunding if you pay in full, but there is a slight discount. I don't remember quite what that is, but yes. Admissions. Do y'all want to take Emmanuel's question?
I missed one. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Right. If I'm not mistaken, we're still only in the U.S. You must be a U.S. citizen. unless you pay up front. I believe that's the caveat.
Yes, you can join if you pay the upfront tuition, but we encourage you to think about the schedule because the classes are live. So for people in a different time zone than US, it may be challenging. And then you're also responsible for getting any work authorization that you need to work in the US. So we're not able to sponsor and we're not able to provide work authorization. But for students who are able to get that work authorization, then we can help them with working with US companies. Is there anything else to that that they might need to know for being an international student? Right. And then if students are US citizens or permanent resident green card holders, then they're eligible for the income share agreement or deferred tuition plans.
And let's see, real quick, what happens if you decide later during the program that isn't the right timing for you? So that would be, we have to evaluate that on a case-by-case basis based on how much of the program that you've actually completed. We have had people who have had to leave for some reason and take like kind of a leave of absence type thing and then are able to come back. Generally, though, it is going to be in your best interest to kind of start over just because, well, again, it depends on how much of the program you've completed. It also depends on how long you were gone. There isn't really a reasonable situation where you were to leave for like maybe 3 months, 4 months, and then come back back to the spot where you were when you left. Because the thing about this field, and especially about this boot camp experience in general, I know that there are other boot camps that might say like, no, it's fine, but I promise you it isn't, mostly because you're learning so much in such a brief period of time that if you were to step away for even a few weeks, it's going to be very, very hard to catch back up and get back up to speed. So, of course you could talk to us about that if something comes up, emergencies happen. Obviously we held a boot camp through COVID, so we know that there could be major disruptions. So we'll work with you with that, but we're going to be really upfront and straight with you about kind of what it's going to take in order to make that successful for you. Yeah. Any additional questions? We have a few more minutes here.
I've also got our fact sheet. I think someone mentioned something about that, so I'm posting that. That's on the website, and I'm posting it here.
And Wesley also put our tuition options on there, so we've got that as well. Anything else, even about the job search, about the current job market, this is a big decision, right? So we can absolutely help you. Again, we've made this decision ourselves. Maybe some of the things that we considered.
I'd love to hear your answer to that, Mark.
Oh, okay, yes, I can answer that question. Let me get Justin's and then, yeah, absolutely, Justin. Oh, yeah, you can unmute yourself now, I think. Maybe not. There we go.
I think okay, here we go. Half and half, I'm not sure. But when it comes down to it, I want to jump on that job markets thing that you kind of alluded to. What I kind of heard when you said job markets was, okay, there are multiple areas within software development, and it may not be the most appropriate way to say it, but like you have cybersecurity, you do have data science, you do have or analytics, and then you do have like just pure straight up software engineering, or is that what you're referring to when you say job markets? Because that's what I kind of heard. Maybe that's me whatever in there, but is that where you want to go with that, and if so, how would you go there? Like, I'm curious.
Interesting. Okay, so I probably meant a couple of things. There's a couple of things that we can talk about. I think when I think of job market, I mean, who's hiring where? And when I'm talking about who's hiring in what regions for what salaries or what rates, okay, I'm talking about the third option there. I'm talking about software development, software engineering. Cybersecurity is not, is a different, kind of a different offshoot field. You would not want to attend App Academy if you want to be in cybersecurity. You probably also don't want to attend App Academy if you want to be in UI UX design, or if you want to be in kind of like Web3, cryptocurrency, that kind of thing. You also don't want to come to App Academy if you want to be in game development or in data science or data analytics. Those are different branches. You're going to learn different sets of tools, while the languages might have some overlap, right? Python obviously is an overlap with data science and data analytics. There are some JavaScript games shops out there, but more things like Unreal Engine and all of these other things that exist out there are very, very different. Their underlying architecture is different. So, what if you're coming to App Academy, you want to work for a company, small or large, that has some sort of web interface with their clients, or maybe internal tooling that's built on, web interface dashboards, that kind of thing. So companies like Slack, Facebook, Meta now, I guess, Google, insurance companies, storefronts, right? Companies like Wayfair. There's just tons of them, but it's going to be more like that and less like, against cybersecurity, which have their own boot camps. Yeah, and real quick, I'm just going to address Jail's asking about our program. Jail, so if you are considering our full-time programs, online or in campus, you have to be on campus all day, and then you will have homework and other things to do that evening. It is about 80 hours a week of time, and you have to be in class, whether online or in person. You must be in class. If you have a full-time job that you are unable to quit, then I would consider looking at a part-time program. Our part-time online program is evening classes, and that is a much better fit. If you're working, a full-time 9-to-5 job, you will not be able to participate in our online full-time or in-person full-time curriculum. Yes, and Wesley did post the part-time schedule up there as well. Ooh, success rate for graduates. This is very good information. Anna, again, has crunched those numbers. I have them pulled up, Anna, if you want me to get there, but do you have them in front of you?
Yeah, go for it. I'm trying to pull up Salesforce again.
No, it's fine, I have it. Yeah, okay. So our average days to placement, so these are the number of days people are searching for a job after they graduate from all programs, is 148 days, so just shy of 5 months. Again, this is the most recent data. San Francisco, 153, online 138, New York, 146. So this is average days in the job search to get that 50K. Now, this is just the days to placement. So 1 month after graduation is quite low, mostly because the interview process takes a while. It's very difficult for you to get an application out, get in front of somebody for a phone call, get into the technical interview, get into the final round, all within 3 or 4 weeks. So the process itself is just long. And so if you multiply that out over all the applications you submit, over all of the individual interviews you have to do, the process is kind of long. So you do have to be thinking about that. And our success rate, I don't know if I have, Anna, I don't have the percentages, but it is certainly in the 90s as far as like for people who get jobs in a year. And again, it's mid 90s. Now, again, there's reasons why people might not. They can choose not to, right? And so we can't count that towards that percentage. They can, maybe have gone through the program, did really well, didn't really put in the effort in the job search, or really just decided it wasn't for them, and then they don't get a job. So there are reasons why someone might not end up with a job after a full year. If you look at our reporting, like the California state reporting will show 56%. That's actually in 6 months, which is great. So it's a little higher than even what we thought initially. And so, but within a year, it's somewhere in the 90s. I don't have that number directly in front of me, but yes, certainly. And that's not to say that people, oh, sorry, go ahead, Anna.
You're fine, you're good. I was gonna answer Justin's question.
Oh, go for it.
Okay, Justin, to your question, in your opinion, where do we see App Academy's strongest true career area? By far, it's software engineering. So I pulled this as well prior to this call. It is well over 65-70% of folks who get jobs that are by title, software developer, software engineer, associate software engineer. That is far and away the biggest area where we find folks who land the jobs. Like occasionally we'll have front-end developers, occasionally we'll have back-end specific, but that software engineer core is where we find folks landing jobs.
Right, and then from there, there's also things like QA engineering, and offshoots that are still very well within the kind of narrow band of just software engineers. Sophia, we discourage people for reaching out to companies while you're in the bootcamp, because if companies are hiring right now, they're hiring right now. So if you reach out to them and say, hey, I'm interested in applying or working for your company, they're gonna be great, let's get, and they respond, they're gonna say, let's get you an interview next week, which you will not be ready for. The interview process goes, it does take a little while, again, a couple of weeks, but it doesn't take 6 months generally, unless it's manga is what we're calling it now, unfortunately, companies, right? Those can take a while, but no, we don't want you in a position where you're not ready for interviews, and you won't be ready if you're in the middle of the program. So we say, wait until the end. We'll guide you. We'll tell you exactly when it's time to apply, and we'll help you apply for jobs. Ooh, what personality types are most successful in software development? You really do, and this is kind of ironic given the fact that you can learn for free to become a software engineer, but really self-starters, right? There's only so much that instruction can give you. And if you talk to somebody who has a computer science degree, who knows the fundamentals, they're gonna know, or they'll tell you that once they're in the job, actually doing the work is actually quite different than just understanding the theory and kind of underlying core concepts, right? So you do definitely need to be able to answer questions or find answers to questions on your own. There's the big joke that software engineers are the highest paid Googlers in the world because that's what we do. And to some extent, that's correct, right? There will be situations where you go into a meeting with your manager, and your manager says, all right, hey, we just found this new tool and we don't know anything about it. In fact, it's poorly documented, but people have written about how to use it. So your job is going to be to figure out how to use it and build me a prototype of our application using this tool in like a week, right? To show me how it would work. And then you present it to the entire team, and then they decide if they're going to use that tool, right? There's no one that you're going to be able to go to for help. A senior engineer, a more senior person isn't going to be able to be like, oh yeah, let me show you how this works, because it probably didn't exist when they were learning how to code, right? You're going to find this is true as you're going through the program itself, as new tools are released, as new versions of tools are released. So it's really about being able to do the research, dig for yourself. Asking good questions is also going to be super important too. Yeah. Let's see.
Oh, Tia, follow up. So more extroverts than introverts. I think it's an interesting question, because I think we're sort of in this space beginning to shift away from the idea that like there is a particular person who is a good software engineer. And that's one of the really, to me, inspiring things about working at a boot camp and being a part of this space, because I've worked with musicians and actors and computer science people, graduates from like a classic, computer science background. And everyone finds success in their own way, because this space is growing so quickly and evolving to really encompass a lot of different styles. To succeed in a boot camp, yeah, being a self-starter, hustling, hard work, all of those things are essential, because this is going to be an intense process, no matter which program you're in, right? But I do think that there's space in all of these careers for introverts and extroverts. It's just a matter of defining and deciding what works best for you and what you want to get out of your software development career. So that's where we come in as career coaches, to help you identify, first of all, what are your superpowers as an individual outside of the fact that you will become a very competent software developer, but how do we leverage that stuff about you that makes you different and unique in a way and into a career that's going to be a long-term, hopefully, place where you'll find fulfillment professionally. So I don't necessarily think there's more of like an extrovert versus introvert. I've worked with both people, both sort of types of individuals who will find success, but I do think that the bootcamp space is really creating waves. Whether you choose App Academy or another place, like the industry of software engineering has had to change and has had to create more space for more, individuals, types of people. So I love that question, because there's definitely sort of an idea of an archetype, but I do think we're starting to broaden that quite a bit.
100%. And Joshua's question, the follow-up, it goes directly from that. No, you do not need to have a degree of any kind. In fact, again, as Anna said, we have seen people, whose only job was Starbucks barista. Great job, right? Lots of attention to detail. There's lots that goes into being really good at that job, taking that attention to detail, and now work at Facebook. And so, you know, it is going to be more about what you put in the boot camp than what you've done before. And so we don't have any requirements like that. And we are at time, but we can, any last questions?
I would say to anyone looking to get more information on the enrollment process, please contact us. I work in the online program and Marcus works for the on-campus program. So I'm going to post our calendar links one more time. This just lets us know a good time to call you to answer all your questions and help you with beginning the process to get to this job search phase.
Yeah, and I'll say to Sophia's question, I know we certainly have had people who have decided that they wanted to go back to school for something. That's perfectly fine. I would say though that it's not a significant number of people because you aren't going to go into bioengineering or something like that. You wouldn't need a boot camp. You wouldn't need our boot camp, certainly not. And you probably wouldn't need any boot camp if that is eventually what you wanted, because the tools aren't going to translate perfectly. If you want to go into something like bioengineering, you really do need to go to college for that. And learn very specific skills that we're just not going to teach. And no boot camp, in fact, is going to teach those specific skills. Now, maybe data analytics, if that's kind of where you wanted to go, but it is very, very different, right? Ooh, Anna, do you want to take this first?
Oh man, T, what is a piece of advice I wish I knew coming in? What do I wish I knew? I don't know if anyone's ever asked me that before, actually.
I think I know. I do have advice. Number one piece of advice.
You start with advice, and then I'll think of.
Yeah,
I wish I knew.
I would say, do your research, do your due diligence, ask for the paperwork, read it, understand what you're getting yourself into, because it is a lot of work. It's extraordinarily rewarding. And it is the hardest thing that I've ever done, including college, the hardest thing that I've ever done, but by far the most transformative and the most rewarding experience I've ever had. Budget it out, right? Make sure you can afford it. Make sure that you have the time necessary to dedicate a lot of time and energy to doing this. It is a huge life decision and should be taken as such, right? It is not something to sign up for on a whim. Certainly, you know, talk to Bree, talk to Wesley, you know, talk to Marcus, talk to our admissions people, really understand the process, understand what we do, and you know, weigh us out against the other boot camps and see what is going to be your best bet. I did that myself. I came to the conclusion that App Academy was the best one, and I stand by that decision, which is why I'm still here. But at the end of the day, doing the good work, doing the good research, that's what's going to make you a good developer eventually as well. So that's my biggest piece of advice. I don't know about what I wish I knew before entering the boot camp. I think that's mostly because I was kind of obsessive about it. I had a spreadsheet. It was a whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, if I could go back and tell past Anna one thing going in, I would say it's okay to not know, right? Like I'm very much a type A individual. I'm a bit of a control freak. I like to have a handle on everything at all times. And I was entering into a totally new sort of challenge, and I was surrounded by other people who are going through the same thing. So for me, that was really hard at the beginning to feel like I needed to be able to check all the boxes and do all the things every single day. And ultimately you do as a student. But I wish that I had told myself earlier on, like, it's okay to fail, right? Like we have this mastery-based learning approach to the instructional model for the online program that is just beautifully designed to allow you to repeat curriculum and to become really, really confident in something before you move forward. And for me, it's not in my nature to feel that, to feel comfortable in that way. So I do think that it's important to come into this sort of knowing that you're going to work hard, knowing that this is a life-changing experience, but also being okay with the fact that like you're not going to know all the answers. And that's why we have done a really good job, I think, of creating an experience during the instructional phase, but then also during the job search to make sure that those times where you get rejected by companies and where you have put out 100 applications and haven't heard back from anybody, we are here to lift you up because you don't have to know all the answers. That's why we have a team of experts who are here to support you, provide you that guidance, and make sure you are locked in on your job search and getting to that sort of end goal of a job as quickly and as successfully as you possibly can. So it's okay not to know. It's okay to fail. We've got your back at every stage of this journey.
That's as good a closing statement as I could as I could come up with. If there are no more questions, yeah, thank you all so much. Thank you for attending this. Again, if you have anything else that you want to know, just reach out to our admission specialists. They're fantastic. They will, if they don't have the answers, they will track us down and find the answers for you from our team. So yeah, good luck. This is, again, a huge decision, but for me, it was the right one. And I'm confident that you all will make the right choice. And hopefully I will see you all in your coaching experience when you finish.
Have a great night, everybody. Don't necessarily, oh, thank you. We don't necessarily know the ages of our job seekers unless they tell us. I have never had a job seeker tell me their age necessarily. Typically, we'll know someone is slightly earlier in their career based on their work experience. But as an 18-year-old wondering how this may affect your job placement prospects, I think in that case, the experience will be primarily focused on your projects, right? And so ultimately, if you can sort of walk the walk in addition to talking the talk, like, we'll work with you and get you there. But again, to my knowledge, I'm not sure what the ages are of my job seekers that I've placed in the past, but I think, the folks who have had less job experience than others, again, totally fine. We've just leaned heavily on their projects and really sold those as their sort of foundation of their job search.
From an admission standpoint, students who are 20 and older are eligible for the income share agreement if they're US citizens and green card holders. So that can be a factor too of going through the admissions process.
Awesome. Yes, very important. Thank you, Bree. That is a key piece there, I think. Cool. Sorry, Sophia. I saw that question earlier and I think we might have skipped over it. So apologies on that one. At least we came back. That's the good thing. Cool. Everybody else good to go? All righty. Well, have a great night, everybody. Thank you all.
Take care, folks.
All right, Marcus, I'm going to end the meeting.